have to say, I've been feeling lately like my libido has been going. Like there was one point last year where it was pretty spiked. That was when I started to feel like freer, like around the summertime. They're like, okay, no more
Right.
masks,
When the
go out,
numbers
have
came
fun.
down, we were all like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I was feeling like real confident, real sexy. And then
Mhm.
once that uncertainty came back in, then
There's your
it's
amygdala.
like, oh, it explains so much.
Hey, your amygdala is like, the cheetah's back. We'll be ready. Like that's what's happening, like in our brain. Like, but we don't want to circumvent that threat system. It is made to keep us alive. Like we need it.
And it feels like there's this need, this physical need, but at the same time, our brain is saying, yeah, but it's not safe yet. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I think that's where a lot of people are struggling, even just with dating. If you're single, if you have a partner, who cares? But if you're single, you're just screwed, and not in a good way.
Yeah. Not in all the fun ways that we were doing in 2019.
Yeah. I mean, could this type of situation, I mean, I know sex addiction is not really a full on thing, but this isolation that people have been feeling, I've been experiencing, not just feeling, but experiencing, could it have heightened or made people want to get into like exploring, looking at more pornography, exploring more fringe type sexual activities and stuff, just purely out of boredom? Like, I mean, if people masturbate more in isolation, since we're technically free because we're not in prison, does that cause people to then want to do that? Like, what drives that motivation sometimes?
It doesn't. I mean, masturbation is actually one of those, it is a tool that we've been given. Like, I actually encourage people, and again, I apologize if you're going to get some comments here. I encourage people, if they're having a hard time going to sleep, let themselves calm down and let themselves masturbate before they go to sleep.
I totally do this. And I can't believe I just said that, but like, I totally do that. If I can't sleep, that is the one thing that like calms me and it nurtures me and it puts me to sleep, and it's great. Yes,
I love it. A sleeping pill, that one.
Yeah.
It is our quickest access to the best brain chemicals we've got. Like, it is incredible that we can do that. How freaking cool is that?
You know,
that we can do that.
Why do you think some not to pivot the conversation, but just an objective opinion on this, why do you think so many different cultures and religions around the world kind of require its members to suppress that? There's so much
We're definitely opening up a very, we could be here just on this for the entire episode.
That's true.
The religious shame around sex is huge. Around our bodies is huge. I grew up in an evangelical Christian household. I am no longer an evangelical Christian. I am a person of faith, but I am not that because of the shaming and the essential, like, your body is wrong. If you want to touch your body is wrong. If you have sex outside of this very narrow box, is wrong. And you are wrong. You are wrong. Like, I'm part of the alphabet mafia. I don't know about either of you. I am a bisexual woman. My existence is wrong when it comes to very specific religious sex. So that's pretty gnarly shame that we have also tied to, back to what we were talking about in the beginning, a tribe, right? We have tied that shame. If you do not follow these rules, you do not get to stay in the tribe.
Yeah.
That's a big risk, right?
That is a huge.
So I don't fault anybody, and I don't look at anybody and I don't think like, oh, you're stupid for being religious. Not that at all, because I grew up in it. Right. I know how thick that is and what it would actually mean to say, no, this is not right for me.
It's the whole tribe thing again. It's like to break. I mean, for many people, that part of their life is such a huge part of their identity.
Yes.
You know, from rearing years through teenage years. They've had a lot of like big moments, and church members or whatever have been involved in those moments. So of course I can see the pressure to still follow the tradition, but I also understand that we are all humans and we all have varied desires.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like the shame that's being put on a lot of different people and a lot of different groups and just women in general, honestly, leads to a lot of these weird sex things in America. Like I was talking to Andrea earlier in the pre-show, we were talking about her experience in Europe versus here, and how in America it feels like we're more repressed sexually, and we're not as open about our lives and the human experience, which then leads to a lot of these interesting sex addictions and whatnot. Now, what do you describe as a sex addiction, if it was a thing? Is it the process of masturbating a lot? Is it hooking up with people a lot? Like, what is it?
So first and foremost, I don't even use the vernacular. So I don't even use the word sex addiction, because again, like it puts it in the camp of drug addiction. And that
what can we call it that's a little bit more accurate?
Well, and Doug Braun Harvey, bless this man. He's done a ton of research and I've been trained by him, and I know a lot of colleagues that have been trained by him. He's done a ton of the research around problematic sexual behaviors or out of control sexual behavior. So that's what we call it, out of control sexual behavior, because that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So like if that's a lot of words. It is a lot of words, and it doesn't sound as marketable,
intriguing as sex addiction,
or as marketable. Remember that there's money to be made there. There's money to be made, and there's a lot of money that has been made off of that too.
Yes.
How many celebrities do you know? Well,
are going to rehab
for their sex addiction.
We were just talking about it. In fact, before we brought you in, we were talking about how I'm reading the book The Truth by Neil Strauss, and how he's talking about having a sex addiction and being in rehab for it. And so that's really what like caught my attention, was that how do you define sex addiction? But you don't. So we're going to just call it problematic or out of control sexual behavior. That is a mouthful.
It's a mouthful, but it's also like the sex addiction camp, because there's an entire certification behind that, y'all. Like, this is big business, what we're talking about. That camp comes from the 12-step model, which is from the treating drug addiction model. Okay.
Right.
So they have equated the two, but again and again, when we scan the brain, when we watch these behaviors, when we go through this, it is not like drug addiction. They want to equate the two because they make the argument that it involves brain chemicals, but these are brain chemicals made for you by you. It's not like methamphetamine. It's not like cocaine. It is not like any of the other people who
it's like no outside substance.
What about opiate addiction, which has killed hundreds and thousands of people around the world, but specifically Americans. But we're worried about somebody masturbating too much. And I just did air quotes for y'all, because a majority of the time when I get a call from someone who says that they are struggling with sex addiction, it is usually not from the person. It is from their partner, and their partner has already diagnosed it.
I love when people diagnose.
So it's basically someone who is doing whatever it is that they're doing. And then their partner is like, I think you're a sex addict because you want it way too much from me. Or some of those situations where I've heard where a couple opens up, becomes an open relationship, and then one actually enjoys it a whole lot more than the other partner. And then that partner gets jealous, and then they accuse them of sexual addiction.
Yes. Or the other thing I hear from people is somebody has a porn addiction, because they masturbate to porn once a day, and they see porn as cheating.
Speaking of masturbation, I'm curious, because I've heard different things from different coaches out there, mostly dating coaches. And it really got me wondering how accurate their information is. They talk about masturbation in relationships.
Okay.
And from what I've heard, there